go, Rush!
Paink, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for allowing me into your studio. It's a beautiful space.
Welcome.
Great to see where you make the magic.
Yeah.
Look, let's break down this incredible Israel Adesanya piece. Firstly, why did you choose him as the main subject?
Well, firstly, I love UFC. I've trained a bit of martial arts myself, so I have an interest there. Secondly, this particular subject, I'm a massive fan. Just him as a person, as well as a fighter. I think there's just so many elements and layers to him. My work is very much layered based, I love enticing the viewer to search deeper within the canvas, and building up those layers, and I love portraiture, and I just thought, he'd be a cool subject to paint.
So let's break down the creative process of this piece. Where does it all start, and how do you get to the finished element of it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of research involved, planning a design firstly on screen, and then bring that, into the studio, hang up my canvas and start building up on those layers. It starts as an abstract form, lots of spray paint, house paint, acrylic, oils. I love to experiment with all of it.
So for people at home who are watching this, how big is this piece?
1150 millimeters wide by roughly 1350 high.
And how long does it take you to put together a piece of artwork like this?
Depends on how much detail I want to put into it. I always find something, and I'm always conscious about overworking a piece too. I have to step back sometimes and just let it be. It's always a process. You have to get to the final destination, your final skill level, but you have to break through first.
And before we did the interview, we were talking off camera about how you've pushed yourself with this piece and you're finding some new ground. Do you want to explain a little bit more about that?
I feel like, in order to get to, in my mind, I have a vision of where my skill level and my skill set should be, or where I want it to be, but it's not always that easy. You kind of really have to keep that process going, and there's moments I find that you kind of break through and you develop a new skill, or you might find something works to your benefit. And I just feel like this piece has been one of those for me, a breakthrough moment. After researching a little bit about Israel Adesanya, he's very big on his anime characters. This particular character, he faced Anderson Silva and showed that exact pose, so I really thought that was really powerful to include. He calls himself the last stylebender Adesanya, so that again comes from the Avatar anime. Color that I've mixed for the background, as I've mentioned over and over, it's all about that layering with my work, and so this is the final touch that I want to include on this piece after I finish all the details of the hair and the eyes, the nose and lips, is to really just block out a beautiful color. I think goes really well with his skin tones, and I don't want to again overwork it. I want to leave most of that background coming through. I think it's slowly I'm becoming a fan of not going too thick on the background, blocking it out too much.
The way I would describe your artwork, it's a unique blend of realism, graffiti, and vibrant colors, which we've talked about. It really captures the essence of the street culture. What inspires you to combine these elements into your pieces?
My work started very much as an abstract form. I love the use of color, and I actually never used to include as much. I'd say that my wife inspired me a little bit there. She used to use a lot of color in her work. She paints a little herself. I think the more patience I have grown as an artist, the more detail I want to include in my work. So, building up the layer as an abstract form first, and then, having the patience to paint a portrait, I think just gels really nicely for me.
So have you had a particularly challenging piece or a rewarding piece? And if so, what have you learned from that process?
One of the biggest challenges I had was with a mural, which was my first big mural.
Is this the Muhammad Ali?
The Muhammad Ali piece. I got to a point, because it was so large scale, and the brick work and the line work is where I was gridding out the piece and marking it up didn't align, so it kind of threw me off a little. I had to revert back to my old ways, and that was just to freehand most of it. So that was one of my most challenging pieces. Sometimes you have the skill level, but you stick to these formalities, and you get so used to, drawing up a grid. And
that was your first mural,
that was my
right?
first big mural. So yeah, that was my most challenging.
And where do you tend to spend the most time? Like, what would be the most difficult part of the painting?
I love spending the most time on the eyes. I feel like if you capture the eyes first and it works well, then the rest flows nicely, So if you can't nail the eyes, then it doesn't look like that.
And do you think there's a slight possibility that Israel Adesanya might see this?
I'd love that. I think there might be a slight possibility. Like, Izzy, if you're watching, let us know what you think. Hopefully we can get it in front of him to view the piece, and he can critique it all he likes.
Yeah, I think he's gonna love it, man. As a full-time artist, what's the biggest obstacle that you face to pursue your passion?
Scheduling, juggling all the work. Sometimes it could get a bit overwhelming. If you're not organised and you're not scheduling correctly, the wheels can fall off very quickly.
Because that means you're juggling multiple pieces at once, right?
Yeah, that's right. And as long as I'm in the flow of the art world, or painting in itself, as opposed to going from design to painting, I'm in a happy place, and the flow is really natural and free. It could get really tricky sometimes going from design to painting.
What advice has Paink got for aspiring artists?
I've got plenty of advice for those artists. There's times where you might feel that you're wanting to give up because it's not the piece hasn't turned out right, or it hasn't gone to plan, but just keep pushing through, because as I mentioned earlier, there's layers and there's breakthrough moments. We all start off drawing like a stick figure. I've had a passion here, and I've shown an interest into art, and so I've pursued that, and that's where my skill level is increasing, and only want to improve because of that reason. I have a passion for it.